Tonight on Reporting Scotland, victims of the infected blood scandal here say they're treating news of support payments from the UK government with trepidation. Around 3,000 people in Scotland contracted HIV and hepatitis C through contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 80s.
Just stopped me doing nearly everything. I eventually had to resign from my job. I couldn't really look after the children.
Also on tonight's programme, Megan Gallagher resigns as the Deputy Leader of the Scottish Conservatives. She says she was deeply troubled about reports that Douglas Ross suggested another candidate for the leader of the party. We'll have the story of the wreckage of a Royal Navy warship more than 100 years old, believed to be discovered off the Aberdeenshire coast.
Coming up in the sport, Brendan Rodgers believes Celtic had no choice but to shut out away fans for their home clash with Rangers next month, saying there's no guarantee Ibrox would be ready to host Celtic fans come January.
And we'll hear about the Orkney-based film starring Hollywood actress Saoirse Ronan that's due for release next month. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Friday's programme. Details of the multi-billion-pound compensation scheme for victims of the infected blood scandal have been given a guarded welcome by Scottish survivors. Around 3,000 people in Scotland contracted HIV and hepatitis C after being given contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 80s in what's been described as the worst treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. Maura Kinneborough reports.
Jill Fife has extreme photosensitivity. She can't be exposed to light for long, a side effect of treatment for hepatitis C. She was infected from a blood infusion after the birth of her second child in 1988.
It just stopped me doing nearly everything. I eventually had to resign from my job. I couldn't really look after the children. I had nearly killed them because when I didn't know I had hepatitis, I fell asleep at the wheel and drove off the road with the children strapped to the back of the car. So it wasn't a safe position to be left in.
It's been a long fight for compensation. The infected blood scandal's been called the worst treatment disaster in NHS history. Over 30,000 people in the UK were infected with HIV and hepatitis C, around 3,000 in Scotland, after they were given contaminated blood in the 1970s and 80s. Now the UK government's announced details of payments.
We're trying to be fair across the different groups, whether it's infected and indeed the affected, and that's the objective of the government. Secondly, what I would say is that we are basing those tariffs on clinical expert advice.
Isaac Middleton was infected. He died in the 1990s. His grandson was also infected.
There is still a lot of people infected and affected who are currently excluded, and I think they have to be recognised. Successive governments have failed the infected and affected communities, so they need to accept that. And I think compensation needs to reflect the decades worth of harm. And I believe that, there'll be a lot of people out there who have passed away that will never see justice or recognition. And I think this is their final chance to get this compensation scheme right, because a lot of people don't have the luxury of time.
There are 5 criteria for compensating those caught up in the blood infection scandal: the harm caused, care costs and financial loss, social impact from isolation, as well as the stigma which existed towards those who were HIV positive. Compensation will depend on individual circumstances and could reach around £2 million. The first payments will be made to those who were infected. Their relatives will be due money too, though that scheme isn't due to start till next year.
It's not about just keeping you going day to day, which is keeping you going with the side effects, with a restricted life. Compensation is about somehow putting back what life could have been. And I am a hopeful person, but when one's defences come down, it's quite difficult to keep going.
She says proper compensation would be life-changing, opening up a career in writing. Regulations should be passed this month to allow the first payments by the end of the year. Maura Kinneborough, Reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
The Deputy Leader of the Scottish Conservatives, Megan Gallagher, has resigned from her post. She is one of 6 contenders for the leadership role, soon to be vacated by Douglas Ross. Earlier today, 4 of the other 5 candidates spoke out together with an accusation that Russell Findlay, who's widely seen as the favourite for the top job, had an unfair advantage. Murdo Fraser, Jamie Green, Liam Kerr and Brian Whittle all allege that Mr Findlay's path to the top job was made easier by the current leader. Well, David Wallace-Lockhart is here to explain. David, just explain what is going on here. How did this all start?
So a lot of this seems to have boiled over today off the back of a Daily Telegraph news story that says that back in 2023, Douglas Ross met with a Murray councillor to discuss replacing her as a general election candidate. Now, that ultimately didn't happen, but as part of these discussions, he was allegedly asked who would succeed him as leader, and he said he thought it would be this man, Russell Findlay, the current Justice spokesman for the Scottish Conservatives, and he is a leadership candidate these days. Now, the other 5 candidates are unhappy about this. They think this was Douglas Ross, if the reports are true, allegedly endorsing a successor. Megan Gallagher has resigned as Douglas Ross's deputy today, saying she's deeply troubled by this story. And the other 4 candidates you talked about there signed a very unusual joint statement when they questioned the transparency and fairness of the leadership contest. Now, Russell Findlay has said he's unaware of any sort of conversations Douglas Ross may or may not have. He thinks today's events show why change is needed in the party, why he's the person to do it. Douglas Ross stressing he's remained neutral in this contest.
Nevertheless, what do you think this means then for the Scottish Tories and where they go next?
Well, quite simply put, this leadership contest is turning into a mess, and it's got even messier. In just the last half hour, we've had Jackson Carlaw, the previous leader of the Scottish Conservatives before Douglas Ross, saying that he thinks that Douglas Ross has to step down from being leader right now, even while the contest goes on. Now, there is unhappiness in some wings of the party, some who feel that Russell Findlay is sort of the establishment candidate, but I should say there's not been anything to suggest he's broken any rules or has got any explicit, illicit advantage in this contest. But another problem here is how ill-tempered it's got, and ultimately the person who wins this contest, their main job is to be the leader of the biggest opposition party at Holyrood, who holds the Scottish Government to account. But it feels like a lot of their time after this contest is going to be taken up with trying to rebuild this party, because it feels like it's becoming pretty fractured during this leadership contest.
Well, we will see how it all pans out. Thank you very much, David. Some of the day's other stories now. People in North Lanarkshire are being warned to be on the lookout for fake bottles of alcohol following the discovery of counterfeit vodka in Coatbridge. More than 40 bottles, fraudulently labelled as Glens, were recovered from a shop after a member of the public reported that one they bought smelled of nail varnish remover. A man has been pushed to the ground and racially abused while walking in Peterhead. Police say a 21-year-old was approached on Arran Avenue at around 10:20 on the morning of the 2nd of August. The victim did not require medical assistance but was left extremely shaken. The suspect, who spoke with a local accent, is described as being white, around 6 foot tall and of a large build. He was wearing a red baseball cap and a grey hooded top. An Edinburgh property firm office manager who bought a luxury lifestyle by embezzling more than £900,000 has been jailed for 3 years. 37-year-old Emma Hunt from Coldstream spent thousands on parties, hospitality and a 5-star Caribbean holiday. She took deposits from tenants that were not needed and also transferred rent payments to her own bank accounts. Edinburgh Sheriff Court found her guilty of fraud, embezzlement and money laundering while at McLean Properties. Now, Eastwood Theatre in East Renfrewshire has cancelled a show by the comedian Reginald D. Hunter after accusations that jokes at his Edinburgh Fringe show were anti-Semitic. 2 audience members last week, who were believed to be Israeli, objected to a joke about Israel. The comedian later apologised for what he described as an unfortunate incident during the show. Gillian Sharp reports.
Reginald D. Hunter has been appearing at this Edinburgh Fringe venue when a joke took aim at Israel, and reports say that 2 audience members thought to be from the country objected and left, heckled by other audience members. Controversy followed. This representative of Scotland's Jewish community says all of this heightens anxiety.
With people thinking it's okay to say things and it's funny and it's okay to speak to people like that, but it's exactly that stirring up of hatred But I think, and he's got a responsibility not just to push the boundaries of comedy, but also for what happens after he does that.
Approached by the BBC after last night's gig, the comedian didn't address what happened. He has said on social media he regrets any stress caused to the audience and venue staff members. Police Scotland say they reviewed information after the event in Edinburgh and no crime was established. Reginald D. Hunter was due to perform here at Eastwood Park Theatre next month, but East Renfrewshire Culture and Leisure cancelled, saying it was down to what they called controversial comments at a recent performance. They say they defend the freedom of expression of artists, but have a commitment to their community and their values of diversity and inclusion. Others say the stage has particular rules.
I understand that, people need safe spaces where they can go and hide from the world and hide from all the issues in the world. But we also need unsafe spaces. And comedy is supposed to be an unsafe space where people can go and say ridiculous and outrageous things and question all the dogma and all the sort of ideas that are supposedly set in stone.
Edinburgh is, of course, full at this time of year. Many will take in a comedy show. Is there anything people believe should be off limits?
There are things you can say that are offensive and that are interesting and thought-provoking, and things that are probably just beyond the pale.
You can have humour, but without having a jib at people who are suffering.
I think you need to take comedy for what it is. It's comedy. People telling jokes.
Reginald D. Hunter's show is due to continue until later in the month. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland.
Tonight's main news again. And victims of the infected blood scandal here say they're treating news of support payments from the UK government with trepidation.
Coming up in the sport, Brendan Rodgers believes Celtic had no choice but to shut out away fans for their home clash with Rangers next month, saying there's no guarantee Ibrox would be ready to host Celtic fans come January.
Now, in 1914, during the early stages of the First World War, a British warship, HMS Hawk, was torpedoed off the coast of Aberdeenshire by a German U-boat. 524 sailors on board died. The wreckage was never found until now, 110 years later. It's still to be formally identified by the Royal Navy, but the team of specialist divers who found it are aiming to remember naval losses in Scottish waters, say it's in a remarkable condition. Ben Phillip has the story.
Beneath the choppy waters of the North Sea, a discovery in the deep. For more than a century, the exact whereabouts of HMS Hawk has been unknown. After years of research, a team of specialist divers believe they located the ship on Monday after just a few hours of searching.
We found her 70 miles east of Fraserburgh. She's in 110 metres of water, and it took a lot of detective work because she wasn't marked on a chart, but we got there. 55 of the crew were under the age of 18. One of them was only 14 years old. It's a really humbling thing. It's very moving.
During the First World War, Britain and Germany considered control of the North Sea as vital in securing victory. Away from the trenches, some of the deadliest battles and events happened just out there. HMS Hawk was one of 9 Royal Navy Edgar-class cruisers. They were deployed to the North Sea during the war to prevent attacks on troop convoys. On the 15th of October 1914, HMS Hawk was torpedoed by a German U-boat. 524 men died. There were only 70 survivors.
And how do we know that the shipwreck is HMS Hawk?
The shipwreck can't be anything else. It has a big gun on the bow, a 9-inch wide gun. It's a great big thing, and it has one on the stern. So this can only be a Royal Navy cruiser. There are other guns along the side. There is an Admiral's walkway around the back of the stern. These are pretty unique features.
Before the war, HMS Hawk was involved in a collision with the Titanic's sister ship, the RMS Olympic. And because Olympic didn't sink, it's thought this strengthened the unsinkable ship claim that would later be linked to the Titanic. It's hoped the wreckage can be formally identified by the Royal Navy in the coming weeks. Beneath the waves, a snapshot in history and a resting place for so many who went to war and never came home. Ben Phillip, reporting Scotland, Fraserburgh.
OK, let's get tonight's sport now with Lewis. Hello.
Hi Laura, yes, a busy weekend of sport ahead. After a busy European week, it's League Cup time and there's some chat in the stands as well going on in football.
Good stuff.
Thanks very much, Laura. Yes, hello there. Well, Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers says that the ongoing Old Firm ticket dispute is a Rangers thing, not a Celtic Rangers thing, and has backed the board's decision not to allow away fans at next month's derby. Rodgers believes Celtic had no choice because of the uncertainty of whether Ibrox would be ready to accommodate visiting supporters at the following game in January because of delayed renovations. Rangers announced on Wednesday that they wouldn't be providing tickets for Celtic fans for that fixture because of their rival's decision, but said they were taking all steps to make sure their stadium was ready for away fans before New Year. Well, earlier today, the SPFL said it held talks with both clubs and confirmed away fans would be back for the final two derbies of the season, provided necessary works are completed. And more on this story on the BBC Sport website. Now, Rangers fans may be longing to see new arrivals at Ibrox, but the club's manager, Philippe Clement, has expressed his powerlessness to make changes to his playing squad. With midfielders Todd Cantwell and Yanis Hadji among those still on the books, despite looking likely to depart, Clement has acknowledged that he can't bring in new players unless some of those currently on the wage bill leave.
Yes, that's the case, and some of them know it already really long time, and they're still in the building, so that makes things more difficult. But it is what it is. I cannot put a gun on their heads to get them out of the building. That's also not the idea. It's not something I can control. So I don't put any energy in that. All the energy is in the players who are here, the players who will be here, and to get the next result. All the energy is in that.
Well, both Rangers and Celtic are among the sides in action during a busy weekend ahead in the League Cup. Now let's take a look at the games in store. On Saturday, last season's beaten finalists Aberdeen host Queen's Park, while there's a fascinating clash between newly promoted Championship side Falkirk and Hearts, while Rangers, the holders, take on St Johnstone in the later kick-off. And it's an all-Premiership Sunday with Dundee United versus St Mirren and Motherwell's clash with Kilmarnock, both kicking off at 2 o'clock before Celtic and Hibs meet for the second game in a row to conclude the weekend. Now, let's get to last night's dramatic European win for Kilmarnock. And manager Derek McInnes is hopeful that his side will benefit from the experience of these matches ahead of a difficult clash with Copenhagen in the next round. A 1-0 win away to Norwegian side Tromsø secured a 3-2 victory over the two legs for the Ayrshire side. A victory that McInnes believes is for more than just his players.
Like every cup competition, the opponents normally get stronger. Hopefully we'll be better for having had the game. I think you've seen latterly we dug deep. They're a team who are well into their season and we're still trying to find our feet. But it's great that the lads delivered such a big performance and brave performance, and we got the result everybody wanted. Financially, it's a huge shot in the arm for the club. I think everybody's enjoying it, directors, supporters, staff, with people, admin staff here, the girls in the club shop travelled. The club have been really good in doing that and doing things right, and every day try to get a wee bit of experience.
Sticking with European football, and St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson says their European journey has taken its toll on his squad as they prepare to turn their attention to the League Cup. The Saints put in a spirited performance against Brann but conceded 2 late goals to lose 3-1 on the night and 4-2 in aggregate. And while it may have been a physically demanding night, European football is something Robinson hopes his side can experience again.
I'd have to give credit to Brann. Very good side, very good manager, a brilliant city as well, so everyone's very much enjoyed it by the result. But as I say, we've had a taste of this and we want more. SPFL and the people that do the cup in their wisdom have put us 2 away games. But we have to deal with that and we'll put as strong a team out as we can. We've got a few injuries now. It has taken its toll, the European experience. So we just have to see what our bodies are, and we're determined to try and progress into the next round.
And Laura, before I go, Cam Norrie has withdrawn from the US Open due to that forearm injury that kept him at the Olympics.
Yeah, it's a tough one for him. Now, have you ever thought about what you're going to do when you retire? I know it's a way off.
I'm not thinking about it just yet, right. But I'll give it time.
Here's an idea. Yeah, because bookkeeping to dance music might not seem like the most obvious transition in retirement, but it's working out extremely well for one 72-year-old from Glasgow. Tony Morris has been talking to The Seven, which is on the BBC Scotland channel, in just a few moments about his success.
And I would say for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that I definitely know other people dig, for want of a better word, dig, what am I talking about here? Dig, from about the 1960s here. That other people really enjoy, and I kind of share that buzz with them. It's I have a great rapport with the audience, and that is priceless. You know, maybe I'm an attention seeker as well, I don't know, but it's exhilaration for me.
Yeah, and that's on The Seven later. Now, this stunning landscape, Orkney, provides the backdrop to an acclaimed new Scottish film which premiered at the opening of the Edinburgh International Film Festival last night. The Outrun stars Oscar-nominated actress Saoirse Ronan as a young woman returning to her native islands to deal with her past and her addictions. And she's been speaking to our arts correspondent, Polly McLean.
Sometimes you can feel a vibration in Orkney. A low rumble. It takes over the whole island.
The Outrun is based on an award-winning memoir about the healing power of home and nature. Its star is as much the Orkney Islands as any of the cast, and it proved to be just as challenging to film.
I think we went to film 4 times in total to Orkney, when the lambs were being born in April, and then when the birds were nesting in June, and then the main shoot was in September, I think, when the seals were there, and then we had to come back with a tiny unit to get some snow in winter.
Merry Christmas. Hi, Rona. I've not got good news. There's no flights coming in today. What?
Oscar-nominated Saoirse Ronan, who also co-produced the film, had to learn new skills for the role of Rona.
And you were really lambing then?
Oh, I was lambing. I mean, I don't know if anyone could fake that, because you see it happen there and then. I was learning from local farmers. You know, when you pull a lamb out at first, they kind of look like they're dead. They're pretty lifeless. So it was a really terrifying experience to have to sort of keep that mask of confidence over my face while inside I was secretly terrified. Was probably like the greatest acting challenge that I've ever faced. So
it's also been a learning curve for writer Amy Liptrot, whose memoir has been adapted for stage and screen at the Edinburgh Festivals and put a spotlight on her homeland.
It's quite hard-hitting, I would say, possibly even more so than the book. It focuses on the family story and the individual story maybe more than the book does, because that's the drama. A film has to pick out the most dramatic things, so it's quite intense for me to watch, because it is kind of the most dramatic things that have happened in my life all put together in a short period of time.
The film will be released in cinemas next month, with a special screening planned in Orkney for those who helped make it happen.
You know, everyone got involved in front of the camera and behind the camera in what the lead character was experiencing. So, you know, every time that we would go out on a boat and we would film the seals and I would sing to them, like, everyone would sort of get involved. Everyone would wild swim together. Everyone lived together. It was an incredibly immersive experience.
Polly McLean reporting, Scotland, Edinburgh.
Certainly looks fresh there. Let's get the weather now with Christopher. Those are grey skies, ominous looking over the Waverley.
Yes, leaden skies there. It was pretty cloudy today across many parts of the country. Hopefully a bit brighter, though, through the weekend.
Good.
Thank you very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yes, it was a fairly cloudy picture across many parts of the country through the afternoon. Quite windy at times as well around the west and northwest coast, all driven by this area of low pressure towards Iceland, and this weather front bringing some showery outbreaks of rain in towards the west and northwest. Best of any evening brightness likely in the southeast. So for the next few hours, you can see we've got that weather front bringing some showery rain across the Highlands and Islands. Still windy here, strong to near gale force in exposure. A few showers in towards the central lowlands as well overnight. Temperature-wise, around 10 to 12 Celsius as the overnight low. So to the weekend, and actually it's a brighter day in store for many of us tomorrow. There'll still be some areas of cloud around, there'll still be a few showers, but hopefully more in the way of bright, if not sunny spells coming through, and the brisk west-southwesterly winds still with us as well. Here's a snapshot mid-afternoon, temperature-wise, 17, 18 Celsius, a few showers coming through, but for most of us it is predominantly dry. Avoid the showers, you'll get some brighter skies. Warmest in the northeast, 19, maybe 20 Celsius, and still breezy around the west and northwest coast, a fairly keen southwesterly wind. So for those hill walking or climbing, certainly across the northwest, the cloud base is early on through the morning, 500-600 metres, but tending to climb through the course of the day, and a fair number of showers across the summits as well. Through towards the eastern ranges, it's still breezy, if not windy from the southwest, quite a significant wind chill at times, and 1 or 2 passing showers. As we head in towards Saturday evening and indeed Saturday night, still a few showers across parts of the west and northwest. Elsewhere, reasonably dry. And that takes us to the second half of the weekend on Sunday. And it's a very similar sort of day of weather, really, compared with Saturday. So you can see we've got a few showers coming in on now westerly winds, but avoid the showers. It's predominantly dry with some bright, if not sunny spells around, and temperatures just down a notch, mid, maybe high teens for most come mid-afternoon. And then to next week, it's now the 3rd week in August. We're rapidly getting towards the end of the meteorological summer, and it looks pretty unsettled, actually. Areas of low pressure moving in off the Atlantic. That means some showers or longer spells of rain at times. Here's what I mean. You can see the outlook Monday to Friday. Not raining every day, everywhere, but certainly some showers or longer spells of rain likely to come in the forecast in the coming week. Bit of sunshine at times too. That's the forecast for now.
Just like that, that was the summer. Thanks, Christopher. Tonight's main news again. Details of the multi-billion-pound compensation scheme for victims of the infected blood scandal have been given a guarded welcome by Scottish survivors. Around 3,000 people here contracted HIV and hepatitis C after being given contaminated blood products in the 70s and 80s. And that is Reporting Scotland. Have a good evening. Good night.